Roll for Crit presents how to play Hidden Leaders in 5 minutes or less or more. Hidden Leaders is the deduction game of warring factions and the fight for the throne, designed by Raphael Stocker, Andreas Muller, and Marcus Muller, and published by BFF Games. At the start of the game, each player receives a leader card, which remains hidden, associated with 2 of the game's 4 factions: the Hill Tribes, the Imperial Army, the Water People, and the Undead. Your goal is to ensure the victory of one of your leader's 2 factions. Again, this leader remains hidden to all other players. Only you can look at it. Each faction has its own unique victory condition, each relating in some way to the red and green power markers on the power track located on the game board. For example, the Imperial Army wants the red marker to be further ahead than the green marker, while the Hill Tribes want the green marker to be further ahead than the red marker. We'll talk more about those victory conditions in detail later on in the video. To the left of the board is an area known as the Harbor, which contains a deck of hero cards. At the start of the game, each player receives 5 hero cards from this deck. They choose one to place face down in front of them, and one to place face down above the board in an area known as the Wilderness. The remaining 3 cards form their starting hands. Each hero card has a name, an associated faction, and an ability. Hero cards in front of you are considered members of your party, whether face up or face down. Face down heroes, or hidden heroes, can only be looked at by the player they belong to. If new hidden heroes are added to your party later on, they should be placed overlapping each other so that the order they were added in is preserved throughout the game. The factions associated with your party may be important when determining a winner at the end of the game. Once everyone has chosen their starting cards and which cards they're placing into their parties or into the wilderness, the game begins. On your turn, you'll follow a series of steps in order. First, choose one card from your hand to play face up in front of you. Your chosen card is now part of your party and remains there for the rest of the game unless a card's effect says otherwise. Next, perform the ability printed on the card. Almost every hero card's ability will affect one or both of the power markers in some way, moving the indicated markers forward or backward on the track. A marker cannot be moved beyond the first or last spaces of the track. Many cards also have additional effects, such as allowing you to draw new cards, swapping cards between various play areas, letting you look at hidden heroes, or turning players' hero cards around by flipping them face up or face down depending on their initial positions. Some cards require you to make a choice, and some cards require you to have certain types of hero cards in your party. Some abilities will even allow you to kill other players' heroes. If killed, a hero is placed face up on the graveyard pile to the right of the board. The graveyard always begins with one card in it, the Deceased Emperor. If a player is able to retrieve this card through the use of a hero's ability, it can be added to their party, where it will count as a member of each faction. Read each hero's ability carefully and look for the icons associated with various areas of the board in order to understand them before playing them. Also, remember that their abilities are only triggered by playing them during this step of your turn, unless a card specifically states otherwise. If you don't want to add a hero to your party for any reason, you can instead discard 3 cards from your hand, placing them face down into the wilderness. Either way, you'll have the opportunity to draw new cards during the next step. In fact, you'll draw up to a hand of 4 cards. There is no hand limit in Hidden Leaders, but if you have 4 or more cards during this step, you won't draw any additional ones. When drawing, you can choose to take new hero cards in any combination from the Harbor or from the Tavern. The Tavern sits below the board and usually has 3 face-up heroes on display. A hero card removed from the Tavern isn't replaced until the end of the turn. After drawing back up to 4 cards, choose one of those 4 and send it to the Wilderness, leaving you with a hand of 3 before your next turn. Finally, if any cards were removed from the Tavern, refill those empty slots with new heroes from the Harbor. If the Harbor ever runs out of cards, the Wilderness cards are reshuffled to form a new deck. Once the first player has completed these steps, playing a card, drawing new cards, and sending one to the Wilderness, the next player does the same, and so on. The game ends when at least one player has a certain number of open face-up heroes in their party. This number depends on the number of players. For example, in a 5-player game, the game will end when one player has 6 face-up heroes in their party. Hidden heroes do not count toward this condition. Once the required number is met, the game ends after the active player's turn. Then, one of the 4 factions is declared victorious based on the following criteria. First, if both power markers are located in the dark war spaces of the track at the game's end, the Undead faction wins. If only one or neither marker is in this section, then check to see their positions in relation to each other. If the 2 markers are next to each other or on the same space, then the Water People have won. If the red marker is at least 2 spaces ahead of the green marker, the Empire has won, and if the green marker is at least 2 spaces ahead of the red marker, the Hill Tribes have won. After determining the winning faction, players reveal their hidden leaders. If one of your leader's 2 factions is the winning faction, you win the game. If multiple players have leaders associated with the winning faction, then whichever player has the most heroes in their party of that faction is the winner. This includes both open and hidden heroes. In conclusion, play heroes, keep secrets, seize power, and avoid the graveyard. That's hidden leaders in a nutshell. Did you get all that?